Welcome to the Hoe Uprising, the podcast about sex, love, and dating from the perspective of me, Sam, one black, non-monogamous, pansexual feminist hoe who lives in New York City, is social distancing, and whose pronouns are she as well as her.
And me, Rob, one agender, pansexual feminist with a fatty, whose pronouns are they, them, and firefighter daddy.
I have a new one, guys. Y'all ready for this?
Okay,
because it's a new me. I am a fat black, non-monogamous, transhumanist, existentialist femme trying to figure out her place on this big ass floating rock.
Okay.
Nice.
Wow. That
I'm
is
gonna unpack what transhumanist means a little.
Yeah, because I still lost, but
well,
Cool.
Okay, we're gonna get into it for a couple of seconds. I don't know if y'all know, but I have I'm signed up for this cryonics thing, which is after all this is done, I'm freezing the rest of my brain.
Cryogenics?
Well, cryonics. Cryogenics is the science of it, but specifically, yeah. So my brain is getting frozen. So that technically makes me a transhumanist because I believe in the fact that eventually humans will, eradicate death. So that's my title. I'm in a church and everything.
This is gonna wake up mad as hell.
I'm gonna be mad.
Black people.
I hope not.
What do you have to follow up that? Because that was quite an intro. Nigga said she's gonna freeze her brain.
I did.
Are you freezing your brain? If not, yikes. It's looking dicey.
I'll go last next time.
I'm just a QA mental health professional who is dying.
Did you say is dying?
Really, we're not transhuman. We're not trans. I meant I'm dying at the end of life. I'm not a transhumanist. I'm not transcending beyond my body.
There's no astral projection. I get you. I thought it was just done. This is recording and then we're done.
Oh no.
What the fuck is how you?
What are you saying, Rob?
Present your diagnosis.
What?
I thought she was when she said who's dying. I thought it was her presenting
it's straight up
illness. No,
that's how we open the show now. We just diagnose shit.
No,
I'm dying of stage 3 pancreatic cancer. I'm like, why would you?
No, not at all. That
deserves
a content warning. We went too far.
Pulling in the reins.
I am just a Kua, and my pronouns are she and her. The end.
Great.
That was my fault, y'all. I'm so sorry.
Weird existentialist zone. Because this podcast is about sex, love, and dating. Every episode of the Hoe Uprising works something like this, not always in this dark path that we just took, but myself and my lovely rotating co-hosts usually talk about sex, love, and dating as it pertains to current events in the world, our lives, and yours. And occasionally we hit you with interviews with insightful folks or do deep dives into topics that are very interesting to all of us. This episode, we're talking about risk mitigation via quarantine pods and sex buddies. Can you mute your mic? This episode, we're talking about risk mitigation via quarantine pods and sex buddies, unpacking ableism in your sex life, our good old friend, ethical non-monogamy, a reminder that you are not your trauma, plus we fucked up, y'all, and we're going to address it and apologize. Expect all that and much more on this episode.
And if you would like to follow along with the conversation had on this podcast, you can do so on social media by using the hashtag Hoe Uprising so we can see it, and the hashtag PodIn so other people can see it.
And if you would like to follow us on social media, you can do so at Hoe Uprising without the G on Twitter, Hoe Uprising on Instagram and Facebook. You can join our Facebook group by searching Hoe Uprising, CUMMUNITY. Head to innerhoeuprising.com to sign up for weekly goodies via our newsletter, pay a hoe, or to check out our merchandise.
And if you are on YouTube, Rob is yelling at their dogs and not an invisible ghost in the background or anything of that nature. Also, if you're on YouTube, if you're freaking with the vision and down with the vibes, do us a favor and hit subscribe. If you're supportive of the hoes and want to see our success spike, do us a favor and click like. If you want to keep the conversation going during your time spent, do us a favor and comment with your thoughts as well as opinions. And
bars, okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I really do try. Also, if you would like us to speak virtually at your school, or conference about sex positivity, Black feminism, podcasting, existential crises, or other kinds of topics we discuss on this here show, we would love to. We would also love to host a consent, pleasure, or dating virtual workshop for your organization. So to do all that, you can book us by sending us a line to ihupodcast@gmail.com. Now we're going to talk about our hoes of the week. Hoes of the week are where we shout out the homies who have supported IHU in the past week. Hoes of the week get special nicknames, and the game, if they choose to participate, is to guess the meaning behind their nicknames.
Ooh.
The hoes of the week this week are at I'm So Lovely on Instagram as well as Twitter, and I'm So Lovely's nickname is Isn't She Lovely?
That was good.
Beautiful song. And I'm So Lovely gets a shout out this week for being such a sweetheart on Twitter, and I just really wanted to express my gratitude to her. Sorry, Rob.
She's great.
Yeah, she is great. Also, we want to shout out A Jeezy, whose nickname just has to be A Jeezy at that point. It was gonna be Young
There's
Jeezy
nothing
if it
else.
wasn't A Jeezy. Yeah. And we want to thank A Jeezy for becoming a patron on Patreon. Thank you so much. Nikita is a hoe of the week again this week, and a reminder that their nickname is LaFan Nikita. They became a patron on Patreon.
Hey.
Philip M, nickname Philip Delphia, edited their pledge on Patreon. Thank you, Philip Delphia. Rayma also edited their pledge for more on Patreon. And Rayma, your nickname is Slack is Ray, and I've known you as Ray for so long now that your nickname is just Ray. And shout out to Ray's partner Ash, who also joins us in Slack and Patreon. Shout out to Kristen, whose nickname is Bella. I feel like a lot of people will get that one.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Kristen became a patron on Patreon. And shout out to Shavonna M, whose nickname is Monster Mash, who also became a patron on Patreon. Also, shout out to the homies who joined our bi-weekly Monday Night Live hangout exclusive to patrons. This week, we talked about the process of sucking one's own dick and whether or not drinking your cum is a cure for depression, which Akua weighed in on. And she said no, but I don't know. I have questions about it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
right?
whether I believe that or not. And then also shout out to everyone who made it out to Akua's solo sex workshop the other day, which was really, really fun and informative. Akua, how'd that go?
It was, as you said, fun and informative. It was a great experience. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And so were the comments that people expressed, and I hope to do it again for some more folks. It was fun.
Well, look out for that, because that very may well happen again. If you would like to be a hoe of the week and get a cool nickname or participate in some of these fun things, here are some of the things that you can do. You can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can shout us out in an article you've written on social media. These are non-monetary ways you can support us. You can also shout us out in an article you've written or on social media. These are non-monetary ways you can support us. We love monetary and non-monetary support, and we understand that in these uncertain times, monetary support is not feasible for many, many folks, so please do not spend your bottom dollar on us. But if you can spare some change, some things you can do are donate to us on PayPal at paypal.me/innerhoe. Become a patron on Patreon at patreon.com/innerhoeuprising, or purchase some merchandise at innerhoeuprising.com/merchandise, the links to all of which are in the show notes. Also, a reminder that if you do become a patron on Patreon, for $2 a month, you can participate in things like our Slack chat. And for $5 a month, you can join our Monday night Zoom hangouts. Plus, all patrons get access to our episodes a few days earlier than normal release, plus access to our patron-only film nights, workshops like Akua's solo sex workshop, and events like the event that I'm about to plug. So your fave hoes are soon approaching 200 episodes in the books, and to celebrate, we are throwing a Zoom hangout session open to all of our patrons to kick it, reminisce on old episodes, laugh, dance, sing, twerk, have a good time, all those things. The hangout will be on Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020 at 8 p.m. Why did I say 2020? It'll be 2021. Anyway, it'll be 8 p.m. Eastern time to 10 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll post the link to the Zoom hangout a few days prior to the event. We hope you can all come and celebrate with us.
Yes, please.
And everybody excited for the party. What is everybody wearing?
Yeah.
What are you wearing?
I feel like I fucking outdid myself today, so I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do now.
Never set the limit, man.
I know. True.
Sky is the limit. Honestly, the
I think I'm
universe is the
aware.
limit, and that's infinite.
I think I'm gonna wear like this see-through, not a negligee perhaps, but get a little sexy because it's nighttime. And
Wow.
you're right. You're right. Maybe I will. Who knows? I just like an excuse to put makeup on. It's nice. It's just a nice feeling.
I might actually beat my face, and then I'm gonna wear. I have a really cute bodysuit. That looks like that shows the girls.
Everybody's showing tit. Robbie, you showing tit?
I probably won't. No, because you can't see my butt, so it's like I have to show tit, right?
I mean, you could stand up a couple of times. Regular intervals.
Yeah, you can stand up. Like the camera can move. It's not a fix.
I'm definitely gonna stand up because I'm gonna be dancing at some point. I already feel it in my soul.
That's it.
I must show tit. But I mean, I'm showing.
That's the subtitle.
I must show tit.
Right
must show tit.
I must show tit.
The girls are showing right now, so
you gotta be prepared.
The girls could come back out for a repeat. The repeat.
The repeat.
That's funny. All right, now we're going to get into the show, the meat of the show, and we always start with. Well, sometimes we start with a segment that we like to call "Fuck That," which is our current event segment where we talk about things that are going on in the world. This week, we're talking about seksbuddies, Quaranteams, pods, and bubbles. And we're going to be specifically talking about people breaking quarantine to fuck, to hang out with people, the breaking point that I believe that we're headed towards, and potential harm mitigation. I want to preface this all with the fact that I am not an epidemiologist or a virologist, and I'm not giving advice on what route you should take. I just want to talk about this because it's been sitting on my chest. So some personal background, hearing people breaking social distancing makes me extremely angry to the point where I speak about it in therapy quite often. When I hear people talk about it on podcasts, I actually just turn off the podcast. We've spoken about us breaking quarantine in different ways on this podcast, and I've struggled with whether or not to edit that out personally. And yeah, so this whole thing just gives me very unsettling thoughts, and I know that there are factors about the way I live and who I am as a person who make it difficult for me to empathize with all this, but it's exactly why I want to discuss this on the show and work things out, because I just think that it's only been 2 months, and folks are breaking in different sorts of ways, and we're in a really unsustainable place when it comes to expecting people to continue to social distance the way that we've asked them to do so in this country. So I just think it's time to talk about it and work it out. So first and foremost, we're going to be talking about a story from the New York Times by Jenny Gross and Claire Moses. The story is called "Health Agencies Offer Tips on Sex During the Pandemic." So basically, it's an overview of how different health agencies around the world have been disseminating info about sex to people. So in the Netherlands, their prior guidelines since March 23rd were to allow 3 visitors into your home on the strict condition that they keep their distance. And I believe the distance was 1.5 meters. It was later suggested recently that it was okay to meet with the same person to have physical or sexual contact. For example, and they said this, a cuddle buddy or a sex buddy, provided you are free of illness. Make good arrangements, this is a direct quote, make good arrangements with this person about how many other people you both see. The more people you see, the greater the chance of spreading the coronavirus. And we have to talk about it because this is the name of the episode. They stylized sex buddy as SEKSBUDDY. And that is very, very funny.
Is that like a...
That's how they spell it in Dutch, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I thought they just didn't want to say sex.
Yeah, I thought they were avoiding it so they could just kind of be PG about it. But that's why I started giggling.
It still sounds like sex.
Yeah. I can now no longer spell it with an X in it. It's going to be SEKS.
That's
it.
It reminds me of how I used to spell things in 6th grade.
Yep.
Sex. But
now I feel like I have to change my fucking IG name to Sex
Buddy. This is changing everything. I'm not gonna lie.
No, it's a new world.
It also sounds like the name of a line of sex dolls.
Wow, that'd be good too.
Buddies. Wow, Sam, the Vajenko. The sex.
It's the
Buddy.
Vajankle was the flagship product, and the Sex Buddy is the.
I love
the
it. I love to
follow-up.
fucking hear it, man. This is amazing.
The government of the Netherlands also suggested masturbation and quote unquote telling erotic stories. They did not clarify what telling erotic story means, but I think they mean good old phone sex or FaceTime sex. Then we have Denmark, who their government said sex is good. This is also a quote. Sex is good. Sex is healthy. We are sexual beings. And of course, you can have sex in this situation. As with many other human contact, there is a risk of infection. But of course, one must be able to have sex. I feel like that quote, just taken at face value, is a little bit irresponsible. Actually, a lot of it irresponsible. But it is worth noting in Denmark that they are easing social distancing restrictions and seem to be okay with small gatherings rather than large, quote unquote, super spreader gatherings. In New York and LA, Rebecca actually talked about this a couple of episodes ago, but they say you are your safest sex partner. That was according to guidelines, and that the next safest sex partner is someone you live with. Yeah. In Oregon, they let us know that you should avoid kissing anyone who is not a part of your small circle of close contacts.
Just kissing. Not
they are
it's really eating ass. That's what they wanted to say, because you can't really like get it like through like just like regular kissing, but you can totally get it through like eating ass.
They're talking about that
what
at
are the
length,
kids
eating
calling
ass
it nowadays? Kissing.
Yeah, yo, let me
kissing.
And then the nigga bends over on all fours, and I eat his ass because he asked for a kiss.
Kiss your balloon knot. That's what they're saying.
Let's get it. Let's kiss Oregon. Is that because Oregon is is that because Oregon is a conservative state that they just said kissing?
I have no idea.
Sure.
I didn't delve too deep into that, so I'm really not sure.
Yeah, obviously not sexing, so you shouldn't kiss. That's all I know. That's all you guys do. So
I mean, but they could be like,
not kiss your close contacts. Your close contacts, your 5 niggas, you can kiss them. You're good with that.
But also people outside of your close contacts, you just fuck them in the ass. Like, it's not kissing, so it's fine.
A lot of times you skip kissing when you fuck them in the ass.
Yeah. I don't kiss y'all motherfuckers anyway.
Oh God, this is horrible.
Then there's England. So in England, Jenny Harries, the deputy chief medical officer, said in March that couples who were living in separate addresses should choose either to stay apart or move in together. So that's the first news story. Then we got some do as I say, not as I do stories, which I found very interesting and indicative of the fact that got to make a change here, or some things need to be reevaluated, in my opinion. So in England, Professor Neil Ferguson, whose advice to the Prime Minister led to the UK, I want to say shutdown, this stylizes it as lockdown, but I don't like that kind of terminology. He quit his government role after undermining the lockdown himself. So it was his advice, and then he undermined his own advice, and everyone found out. So Professor Ferguson actually allowed his sex buddy to visit him at home during the shutdown or shelter in place orders, while lecturing the public on the need for strict social distancing. The gag, I mean, it's already the gag, but the gag is that his sex buddy is a woman who is married and lives with her husband and children in another house. I do not know if an arrangement was happening, but this spicy. Like, I want to watch a quarantine fucking soap opera about this. Yeah. His comments following, I don't know who caught him, which is kind of interesting to me. Like, exactly. I feel like nowadays people are like the social distancing police. So if like you are caught, niggas is like with the fucking binoculars. This nigga Ferguson over here. And how do they know who the woman was? How do they know that she was married? Like,
niggas was really niggas have nothing else to do. So why not investigate?
We're all
they're just following them.
They're peeping through their blinds. They are finding out.
They saw him roll up. No, she actually went to his house, so they saw her roll up. That's very funny.
Probably
that's wild.
Her license plate. Like, they were like, nah, we ain't never seen this car before.
Yeah, that's so true. You do be knowing who's on your block, because I didn't.
That's a fact.
His comments in response to being outed was, I acted in the belief that I was immune, having tested positive for coronavirus and completely isolated myself for almost 2 weeks after developing symptoms. I deeply regret any undermining of the clear messages around the continued need for social distancing. And I think now is a good place to note that it is currently unclear whether people who have recovered from the virus will be immune or able to catch it again. In Scotland, the Scotland Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Catherine Calderwood, quit when it was revealed that she also broke shutdown orders made by making 2 trips to her second home. And her response to also being caught, there were like pictures of her. That was really funny to me. It was like her in her yard, like posing with somebody. And there was like grass in the background and shit like that. Yeah.
Oh.
She said, while there are reasons for what I did, they do not justify it, and they were not legitimate reasons to be out of my home, which I thought was interesting phrasing, like the be out of my home aspect, because that is not even indicative of what we're trying to do with shelter in place and social distancing. And it seems very like all or nothing, black or white, and that's causing people to make some decisions that may or may not be rash. And just like the fact that they have to step down and lose their job after that is like also indicative of the all or nothing, black or white. Like the people who've outed these people may very well not be social distancing themselves. It's all very interesting territory. She also said, while I and my family followed the guideline on social distancing at all times, I understand that I did not follow the advice I am giving to others, and I am truly sorry for that. So yeah, like I said, there's clearly a fucking issue. The issue, if we want to break it down, is that people are sexual and people are social. People in complete isolation can lead to negative health outcomes in those people's mental health. And people in complete isolation can be driven to participate in highly risky behaviors, like going to a party with 50 people because you're feeling alone and you're just like, fuck it. There's a Slate article that I think sums this up in a good way. The article was written by Christina Cotterucci, and it is titled, I have a quote unquote quarantine bubble with people outside my house. You should too. We put a lot of thought into doing this responsibly. It makes me feel like I can live this way a lot longer. Christina wrote, everything is black or white, safe or dangerous, slowing the pandemic or accelerating it, but this binary framework of risk doesn't adequately represent reality. It flattens out important nuances, which will make it more difficult for people to make educated risk mitigating decisions when society begins to reopen. All or nothing isolation isn't the only way to curtail the spread of the coronavirus. It's not sustainable for everyone either. For me, a quarantine bubble isn't just a way to meet my immediate social needs. It's my plan for keeping my risk of contracting and spreading the virus as low as possible for as long as possible. At a time when public officials are struggling to produce unified plans for what may be several ways of shutdowns, unknown length and frequency, it feels safer to have my own. I want to note that all of the things that I've read, every time I say shutdown, it says lockdown, and I don't like lockdown because people are actually in prison and jail, and it's not the same. Yeah. Anyway, what sex buddy or quarantine looks like according to CNN and a couple of other resources. So step 1 is to lay the ground rules. You have to pick 10 people or less, otherwise the risk goes up exponentially, so on and so forth, the more people you add. Pick people who you trust. If someone is sick, they should isolate in a room that isn't a shared space. But if one person in your bubble is sick, you should also consider everyone else sick. This is according to Slate and NPR. You need to get on the same page about what the rest of your lives look like. So are you wearing masks outside? Are you actually not making other contact with other people outside of essential runs? I think the Slate and NPR article talk about what your food and package precautions are. Like, are you wiping your packages down with Lysol and your food packaging down with Lysol and things like that? I do want to note that there's currently no evidence to support transmission of COVID. It's not of COVID-19, it's fucking of coronavirus. Nobody types anything properly. Currently, there's no evidence to support transmission of the coronavirus associated with food. That's according to the CDC. I'll link that into the show notes. And also, it is unlikely to spread from domestic or international mail, products, or packaging. However, it may be possible that people can get coronavirus by touching a surface or object that has the virus on it and then touching their own mouth, nose, or possibly their eyes. But this is not thought to be the main way that the virus spreads. So you want to talk about all those things, and then, so you want to talk about all those things. Then they discuss who to join with regarding quaranteams or pods or bubbles. People with kids seem to be willing to team up with other people with kids with shared interests. If you are a person who does not have children or does not live with your children, you might want to pair up with people who have shared interests as you. Once again, want to note team up with people that you trust. Single friends tend to join together, and that's all the things that I saw on the internet. I'm open to other kinds of ideas, or talking about other kinds of ideas, if you guys have ideas.
So by a quarantine, I want to go back because she said that she has a quarantine bubble, and this quarantine is just basically like during the duration. It's like your top 5 of Corona, right? Like, it's just like, these are the people that I fuck with. I'm not hanging out with nobody else. I trust them. We have a pact where we're just like, you're not going to hang out with anybody outside of this. And just making sure, like, we make store runs once a week, like stuff like that.
Right.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily people that you don't have to all move into one house or apartment or anything like that. It's just people whose homes you feel comfortable going to, a tight circle.
I think I kind of have that situation already going on with Chris, because I don't go anywhere other than I walk over there. I don't interact with anybody. And then, like, I know his roommates and I talk to them and stuff like that. And then that's it. Like, I've not seen anybody else except for the people that I live with. So,
so you could have a tight,
okay,
your sex buddy. It doesn't really matter. I'm just making these things up, but that would be your sex buddy, and that would be a tight circle with him, or a tight loop with him. But you also need to know and agree upon what his roommates are doing, also, and they would also need to know and agree upon what I'm doing, what the people you live with are doing, also.
Got it. Okay, got it. Oh well, yeah, that's something that should be discussed. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Was anybody else gonna say anything? No. Okay. Then when it comes to whom to join with regarding your sex buddy, that seems like it'd be better if it's someone you've already had sex with, just because this is all risky behavior. It's risk mitigating behavior, but there's still risk there. And you're now agreeing to enter into this thing with someone. And if you've never had sex with them, the sex might just be garbage. And then it's like, okay, you just did all of this risky behavior for maybe no reason, or no reason that's actually beneficial to you in the end. It should be someone who is single. Otherwise, like the guy in England, or where was that? England? I think it was England. Their partner also needs to agree to the terms of what's going on here, or any other network of partners that's happening. And then once again, someone you trust. Like, you don't want to enter this situation with someone who, maybe you just met on a dating app or something like that, and they're like, yeah, I didn't see nobody else, and they've seen like half the block or something like that.
Community. Everybody.
But not the time. Not the time for that.
Not the time.
I think this is like a really good point. I appreciate this point, because it's like, yeah, niggas gonna be fucking. However, like, really being selective about who you choose to fuck for coronavirus reasons, not just like STD reasons, but it also helps bring back up the talk. Like, when I have a new partner, I don't be asking them if they sleeping with other people. Honestly, we use condoms typically, so I don't ask them if they get tested. Even though I should, and I want to. It's just like something that just I forget. But that would be the thing that I would ask of a partner now. Like, yo, are you sleeping with other people? And if you are sleeping with other people, do they know you're sleeping with other people? And how many other people are you sleeping with? And am I comfortable with letting all them germs into my fucking house?
Yeah.
Or am I comfortable with you coming into my house and me potentially giving things to you that you take home and give to other women?
Right.
It's like, this shit is fucking crazy, man. I mean, this shit is fucking wild.
Yeah. It's definitely... go ahead.
No, I have somebody. It's funny that this is like a thing, and I'm glad it's a thing because it's realistic, like Rob was saying. But I know, like, I have a friend who I only know on the internet. I have a lot of internet friends. But I was talking to them, and they were like, how they're just frustrated with dating now, especially because you know how people just don't be shit. So you have these conversations. They don't have a person that they see regularly, but they want to have sex. So they have these conversations, these preliminary conversations. Hey, are we gonna keep doing this regularly? Are you gonna I'm fine with us just fucking. I trust you, like building it up. And then they meet the person, they only fuck once, and then the person disappears. And it's like, this is not the time for that, because now I have to wait a whole, like,
now I have to re-quarantine and reset up.
And that's what they were saying, because they're like, it's so much worse, like, with these ancient niggas, because it's not like I could just be like, all right, I'm gonna just fuck somebody else. Like, you're so much more aware, so you have to wait these 3 weeks. And you're like, damn, like, I could have gave it to somebody else that I could have built that bridge with and had a sex buddy situation or something like that, where we like mutually agreed upon that. And you're saying, like, there's no reason now of all times to be like, I'm only fuck you once. Like, you could just be honest about that and find somebody else. You know what I mean? So it's just like, they were just saying, like, it's ruined my possibilities. It's getting me tight, because now I have to wait a whole 2 weeks before I could like establish it. But I guess it gives it a little more time, because then you're talking to people more and building that trust. I know it's a little more difficult with single people, because you do want it to be with people you trust, but how much can you trust somebody that you just met on the internet, or they're not your regular partner? In that case, you probably should just wait. But I know some people are just going to do what they do.
I'm not sure what my end thought here is, but I kind of want to dip into empathy.
Okay.
And how that shows up or doesn't show up in casual dating and whatever dating situation we are going through as millennials and Gen Zers and Gen Xers and things like that. And how that also does or doesn't show up in how people are treating the pandemic. So it's like, not only in order to like abide by social distancing orders to protect yourself and maybe protect like your close family, but to protect everybody else, you have to have some level of empathy. Like, that's why you're doing it, because you care about the greater good.
Yeah.
And when you like show decent respect to somebody who you're dating or fucking, you also have to have a level of empathy. And I think at least from what I've seen, a lot of people lack that, and it's still showing up in like when people say in a fucking pandemic, like, even this is happening in a fucking pandemic. Like, yeah, this bullshit is still happening in a fucking pandemic. Like, I cannot count how many times I've seen people on Hinge just being like, yo, yeah, come over, I don't really care about that, I work in a hospital. And I'm like, what? I don't even
yeah,
that makes care about anything.
Yeah.
You care about anything? You don't care about people in the hospital. You don't care about me. You don't care about yourself.
And it's really coming up in the way that like people treat older people in society, people who are like more susceptible to stuff like that. Very much, it's kind of so scary and sad how people are just like, I'm not going to get anything, so all that, it doesn't matter. And it's just like this blatant disregard for the fact that you could be a carrier, you could be asymptomatic, you could just like, all of these things, all these people you pass, you're only thinking about yourself, and you're not thinking about how many people in that one like supermarket thing. Gladly they're like stopping people and they're not letting people go, but like your one errand run, if you're walking around without a mask, you could just have infected so many different people and you have no idea. So it's just like, it shows you how many people just do not care about other people.
Yeah.
So they could just get their fuck, or they could just do whatever they want. And it's just like, just wear a mask, just put a fucking mask on. I put it as soon as I get home, I take it off, my face is sweating, I'm like, ugh. But at least I know I like did something right and I wasn't out here just being selfish, you know what I mean? Like, I take walks and like, I'm like, oh, I'm just walking around the corner, put my mask on. The new I forgot my keys is you run back inside and you put your mask on. But it's such a simple step that I'm so much less concerned about me getting it, and more like, you know, every time I see old people, I cry, because it just like touches me in a deep way. So like, I see them and I'm just like, I don't want to be the reason why. Like, that's all I'm thinking. And the fact that people lack that entire thing is just scary to me. It really is.
Scary.
Yeah, it's really a sense and a framework of social responsibility that, you know, we are responsible for our other humans. And it's really evident that people lack it. Like, people lack a sense of value of social responsibility and empathy. And it's a bit disheartening. Not a bit, it's a lot disheartening.
Or it's angering, and you talk about it in therapy every week like I do. Hey.
Yes.
Hi-yo.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the least riskiest way that I see this playing out. Once again, this is not a recommendation. This is not a... Why did my fucking thing stop recording? Oh, it didn't. Okay. Yeah, this is not a recommendation or anything like that. This is just me musing. Is this recording or not? Oh, it is. Okay, I'm so sorry. So the least risky way to me is day -1. You've run, and this is like sex buddy or engaging with your quarantine or your pod. Day -1, you run all your errands. If you have to have some in-home service work, like a plumber or an electrician or something like that, you do all of that on day -1 or days -1. Then 0 to 14, you no contact with anyone whatsoever. No plumbers over, no grocery store, no CVS, nothing like that. Not even any walks, because like this is like least risky scenario. Then 14 and onward, you do your sex buddy activities, you do your family bonding, you do your pod bonding, whatever, and then you reset. But that's hinging on the fact that everyone who you've interacted with, sex buddy, quarantine, pod, whatever, also like literally took it seriously and did not see anyone for those 14 days. Otherwise, you're running the risk of, if you contracted the virus from them, then when you do your reset day and you run all your errands, now you're also like transmitting it to anybody who you come along the way when you do those things. None of this applies for essential workers, because essential workers can't quarantine for 14 days. And I don't really have an idea that I personally feel good about when it comes to essential workers. Rob, a couple of episodes, you mentioned first responders linking with first responders. And to me, that seems solid for healthcare professionals in general, linking with other healthcare professionals. But I don't think it's a good idea for healthcare professionals to link with other essential workers who are not on the medical front lines, because that seems like you meet up with somebody who works at a grocery store and then
it's different.
Yeah.
The thing is as a first responder or a medical professional who is working on the front lines, because there are different kinds of medical professionals, you are at risk 24/7. Well, not 24/7, but literally your entire shift, you're at risk. You get patients with confirmed coronavirus, so you know that you've been in contact with it, and it sucks, and you just got to deal with it. But I would, if I had to hang out with somebody, not just for the shared experience, but for the shared level of, we both fucked. Like, there's a lot of firefighters who, they'll go home, but they won't touch their wives, and they sleep separately from their wives, or they go home and they won't touch their kids. A lot of firefighters do that. A lot of medical professionals do that. And that's how they protect their family. So, you know, in interacting with them, their family is as safe as they're going to be. So it's like, that is just like the one kind of circle that I see that the risk is still high, but it's low, if that makes sense.
Risk mitigation.
Yes. Like, it's risky, of course. Hanging out with anybody's risky, but we're also taking extra precautions to protect our families. Like, I do see my parents, but I don't see them every day. And I try not to touch them for the most part, especially if I haven't showered. But I'll shower from head to toe if I know that they're going to be drunk and want to touch me and shit. Because, you know, niggas can't help it. But I try to see them very seldomly. But, you know, my grandma died, so what can I do? I can't like leave them alone. Like, this shit's really fucked up. But if I choose to hang out with somebody, I choose to hang out with a firefighter.
I think another layer of that, and I'm not telling your parents what to do, but anybody listening, and what I think is the next step after that is that your parents or anybody who is not a first responder, who is actively seeing first responders, then needs to be extremely cautious and probably not interact with anybody else outside of that.
Oh yeah, no, they don't leave the house. My parents, they interact literally with each other. If they leave the house, it's exclusively to go grocery shopping. It is once every 2 weeks. They don't walk around or anything. They get tested all the time just to make sure. They never tested positive, but they don't allow other people into the house besides me. And even when I come to the house, they're sanitizing behind me and in front of me, and sanitizing when I leave. Like, it's they're very aware of the risk that it takes to have a child who is a first responder. So they do what they do, and they do it pretty fucking well. And they've never tested positive, no antibodies, no nothing.
Interesting. That's interesting. So that's when it comes to essential workers and first responders and healthcare professionals. I have no idea how to navigate this when it comes to very high risk populations, and I'm open to people chiming in on that. My lingering issues with this are still, why do you have to show and tell me this? So I think Queen and Jay were talking about this on maybe their most recent episode or an episode before their most recent episode, where they were talking about the Jill Scott versus Erykah Badu battle, and Erykah Badu had 14 billion people in her house, and it was just like, okay, why are we seeing these 14 billion people in your house? And I think that it is your, if you are, which is why I want to talk about this on the show, because Rebecca, I think it was clear that you were not social distancing, and Rob, from the past episode, you made it clear that you were not social distancing, and my mind as a listener was like, if I heard this and if I did not hear any personal responsibility behind this, I would turn it off. And yeah, I like when I see Erykah Badu doing something like that, I'm just like, I don't understand why this is happening. I don't understand why you're telling me that this is happening, because you absolutely do not need to do that. But I think going forward, if someone is doing that, like doing these bubbles or these sex buddies kinds of things or something like that, I think if you are a public figure, it is your social responsibility to let everyone know the terms in which you're meeting up with other people. Because to me, as someone outside looking in, I'm just like, oh, so you just don't give a fuck? You don't give a fuck about yourself. You don't give a fuck about your people, but you don't give a fuck about me and my people. And if you don't give a fuck about me and my people, it's fucking beef. So that's still an issue that I have with that. I'm open to hearing what you guys have to say. Obviously, this is a podcast.
Yeah, imagine it was just like, nah, that's it. That's all I had to say, and that's it. No. For me initially, I think I had been at my partner's house in the beginning before anything happened. I lost my job at my partner's house. Like, I was there because I had gotten locked out of my house and I had no place to go. So I was there for 2 weeks. And then when I lost my job, he got sick. And it was just like, okay, now I have no place to go because I've been with you when you got sick. So that was the one person, like, if I had been home, I probably wouldn't have visited him. But because I was already there and he had a fever, and I was just like, okay, I can't go home because then I run the risk of getting my own family sick. So it became kind of like my house. I want to say I probably ended up staying there for like 2 months. But then when the window opened that I could go back home, it was either like I live here or I don't. But I didn't have the resources to stay there any longer than that. So it became kind of like this tunnel situation where I just like, okay, I know that I've already been here and I know I have to go home. So then it was just like, I spoke to, before I entered my house, I spoke to my sister. I spoke to my sister's partner who lives here as well. We had a conversation about like where they had been at. They're actually like flight attendants, so they don't work anymore, but at the time they were working. So we had to have a conversation. When I came here, I actually collected my items and then didn't interact with anybody and went back. But it became kind of like this, all right, I know where you guys are going. We talk, we touch base. I know where he's going. So I felt safe, and I guess I created a quarantine bubble that I thought made me feel safe, in that I know where everybody's going. So I just only went here and there. I don't go anywhere else. So to me, it was just like, I can understand outside. It's just like, yeah, you know, I'm just chilling. I'm going to his place. But it started off with me being at his place. But that's not where I live. I just had no other place to go. So I was just there. And then when it came back to coming home, it was always a system of checks and balances. And it's like me and him have a conversation. We don't talk to other people. I'm like, okay, they went here. They travel on the plane, And like, there was a time where I was unsure because they had hung out with people that I didn't know. So I actually stayed in my house for 2 weeks and to make sure that there was no symptoms. And then I went back. So it's definitely not like a disregard. If anything, I'm hyper anxious. So I'm very much like, I think I'm going to get it and I think I'm going to give it to everybody, and I'm freaking out more often than not. But I can understand, like, out of context, that could definitely be like, and that's why I'm like more than happy to clear it up, where it's just like, nah, nigga, I don't give a fuck. I'm just trying to get my dick sucked and stuff like that. And that's not the case, because there was a point in time that I wasn't even having sex. So it wasn't anything like that. It was just like, I was there and my own situation was so weird that I had no other place to go. But it was also like, that's not where I live. I had no clothes. I was washing the same. It was like, I have to go back. So I had to check and see what I could do. And it's always been like, who have you been with? Have you been wearing masks? Do you wash it? Like, it's always a check. And there was a level of risk, and I did take that. But as far as moving forward, it hasn't been anything other than just like me being here, or like that's checks and balances if I ever go over there.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I ain't gonna hold you up. For a while, I was kind of disregarding, not like a lot, but I did. And I think that was in part due to losing my grandmother and not wanting to be alone, even though it was the thing to do. It just felt so fucking hard to just sit in my house all day and not be able to like talk to her or call her or anything like that. So I did disregard it. And it was stupid because, yeah, one nigga did ghost me. And I'm like, damn, I'm out here risking my fucking existence for like a piece of penis or whatever, or a piece of comfort, because no, like he did comfort me that day. And it was a very important day for him to do so. But, you know, now have my ex coming over, but now that I think about it even more, it's like it's not like he probably shouldn't. He definitely shouldn't, because he does not social distance at all. And like, it's very bad. You would think that nothing was happening dealing with him. And I was at this point that I was just like, yo, fuck, if I can just not be alone. But I'm becoming more comfortable now with if I am going to hang out with somebody, as I said, it's going to be a firefighter. And just trying to like making it known that unfortunately I need to see him. I can't see him because he's a dirty nigga, and I'm not gassing you. Like, I don't even want to be like rude or whatever. I love him with all my heart, but he's doesn't take care of himself as if there's a pandemic going on. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool. But that's me coming from a place of vulnerability. But like, my nigga, I have a degree in human biology. I know exactly how viruses work and how they spread. And it's like silly of me to do that. It's silly of me. It's absolutely silly of me to do that. And honestly, until this talk, I never really thought about it. Like, I knew how you felt about it. And I tried not to mention it to you because I knew you'd be fucking pissed. But I didn't think about it like that. But now that I am thinking about it like that, and am thinking about like, yo, what if I do recontract this shit? That, I don't know why, you know, that wasn't registering in my head, that since we don't know, like, we really don't know what this virus is capable of. And what if I did get it again? And I had to go through that again? Like, fuck. And if I did get it and then I accidentally gave it to my mom or my dad, they're not at risk, but they're not young. You know, they're not like they're gonna feel it. You know what I mean? Like, they're gonna feel it. So I'm gonna be definitely more conscious of that, and I will have a talk with him about that. And it's just gonna be, it is what it is. Like, unfortunately, it's like indefinite. You know, it's not like, oh, you know, I won't see you for a month or a week. It's horrible, but I might not see him for like months. Shit, we don't know. I might not see him till next fucking year. Unless we do this quarantine thing, but I just don't see that happening. So I think that it's best that I do just stick with my very few first responder friends and just call it a day, keep it simple.
Yeah.
It's fucked up, man. I hate this shit.
It's difficult times. Does anybody have any last
oh man
thoughts?
I hate this shit. Like, my last thought is, I feel so personal about this fucking virus because it took my grandmother. And the thing is, it's like, there is only but so much you could do. Let me get close to the mic. There's only but so much you could do in a medical care system. These nurses gotta go home. They gotta go home. Some of them ride the train. They gotta shop for food. They gotta do this. They gotta do that. And they can say that they're doing all the guidelines as far as keeping themselves clean, but obviously there was a slip up somewhere. She was quarantined. but she got coronavirus. So it's like, I hate this fucking virus, and I really wish this shit would stop. And I'm very mad at myself for not taking it more seriously, because I don't know how many people I might have hurt by being so reckless. I be fucking up my makeup and shit.
I cried earlier today too. I feel you.
Shit is mad fucked up, bro.
And not to say that it's okay to try to pacify it in any way, but this pandemic really shows, how our lack of social connection is really affecting us, when we're grieving and we need that social connection, but we can't. And we end up resorting to these risky behaviors, because our mental health can't take it.
Right.
Like we're rewiring everything that we've done our whole lives, and that shit is so hard. It's so hard to just to not see your doctor, to get diagnosed over the phone. Like, that shit is so difficult. To have therapy where I'm just talking over the phone to my therapist and she can't see my body gesture, so she can't even tell how I'm really doing, because I can say one thing and mean another, like everything is just changing so much. I go fucking food shopping like once every 3 weeks, because it's like sometimes it's physically impossible to get into a fucking store. You'll be out there for hours. I haven't had ice cream in weeks because Trader Joe's line is like 4 blocks down, and it's like social, like first world problems, but also real problem, because they have food that I really eat that really helps me, like, because I don't eat meat, and I can't get it anymore. Like, we're really changing everything, and we have to, and it fucking sucks.
It does suck. It does suck, and it is not ideal times. And it's important to, I think, have conversations like this so that we can all better rewire how we interact during these times. Because, like I said, and like we've been saying this is an hour recording now, so maybe for the past 45 minutes, this is like really unsustainable for a lot of different ways. Yeah. And when you reach a breaking point, you may do things that are even more unsustainable on top of the unsustainability. So you definitely got to figure this shit out, because it will be like this for a while.
Yeah, and though, we've talked about it highlighting, people's sense of social responsibility, people are put in a place where they have to try to balance their mental health and their sense of social responsibility. And that is a hard ask, what someone will pick or prioritize, I can't yuck or I can't judge them for. But it is an individual action for everyone.
And it's a hard ask without resources, right? Like, can't speak to any other country because I only live in this one, but there are a lot of conflicting things going on in regards to how to carry yourself right now. And if one half of the country is saying, yeah, man, go outside, it's fine, and the other half is like, never leave your fucking house ever again. That's a really difficult, like, the world is not black and white and people are not black and white outside of race. And that's a hard territory to navigate because it's not the actual territory that we exist in. So yeah. Okay, let's clear the fucking air. Can somebody light some sage? Somebody light some fucking, what is it, onion skins? Where's
Santo.
Juju?
I'm gonna light some Palo Santo up in here.
But thank you, Rob, for being vulnerable with us.
You're welcome, my niggas.
We appreciate you.
That's what we do on the show.
You're real as fuck.
All right, now we're gonna get a little bit more vulnerable. Hopefully not as vulnerable.
Oh Lord, we gonna cry, y'all.
In a little segment that we like to call Fuck Me. That is the segment about our sexual, romantic, and dating lives. And if you've been on our social media or our Patreon over the past couple of weeks, you might know that we have something called a 200th episode coming up. Where they do that at?
Where they do
I
that
don't know,
at?
but they do that here. They do that here. I hope my laptop doesn't die. Anyway,
Do you want to get your charger?
Yeah, after I do this intro. So we have 200 episodes coming up. This is not the 200th episode, but this is the episode that we are all together as a group before the 200th episode. And I want to spend our Fuck Me time talking about kind of just like what we've learned, how we've grown, what we've exhibited, our favorite moments, our least favorite moments from doing this here podcast. That is about to turn 200. What is that? A bicentennial? But not really, because bi-eptennial. Anyway, I'm gonna get my charger, so give me a second. Sorry. Cool. So over the last 200 episodes, this is not everything I've learned. I've been here for a very long fucking time. But these are some things that stand out to me. So I think one of the most like cherished things that I take away from this is learning how to advocate for my sexual health, because I think like literally prior to the show, I did not know how to do it. And now I know how to do it like very well. So like shout out to all of the episodes and the times where we've unpacked these things, specifically talking about PEP and PrEP. I never talked about this on the show, but I did have to go on PEP one time. And the only thing that gave me the courage to do it was talking about it on this podcast. And Akua driving me to urgent care. Shout out to you.
You have talked briefly about it, not in depth, but you have mentioned it
on this show.
Yeah,
or on other shows.
No, on this show. Especially it was closer to the occurrence, the time of the event. A little bit further. And you talked about the experience and advocating for yourself. In a short anecdote.
Okay, cool. Also oral and anal swab. Shout out to that episode with Omatayo and Janelle and Alex, and all of the information about the HPV vaccine. Shout out to the episode you did on that, Rob. That was after I got my HPV vaccine, but it really felt good disseminating that information to other people, because that shit is like so very fucking important.
Yes.
Unpacking ableism. So just like the fact that it's okay to use props, aids, a pillow, painkillers, pad your knees while you're fucking. That was like, oh wow. It doesn't have to hurt. Like my arm doesn't have to be stuck here forever for me to be look sexy or something like that.
Yes.
It's just so weird how it takes like very simple, like, oh yes, you can do this, for you to be like,
oh wow,
I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to all of the guests and times on this podcast, listeners, when you guys talk just about like trauma, like that's very, very I'm very appreciative of the fact, or just appreciative of the instances when folks have been open about that, and kind of like allowing me to see myself in the not the situations of others, but just like the lives of others, and reminder to myself that just because you've experienced trauma in any sort of way doesn't mean that you don't have to have a 100% fulfilling life, and that just because you feel bad sometimes doesn't mean you're going to feel bad all of the time. So this show has been a really big reminder to me of the fact that healing it isn't linear, and that's okay. In terms of my dating life, I think the biggest thing that I've walked away with is don't hang yourself up on people who don't like you, which is something I did for many, many years, and who the fuck even knows why. But I've learned how to clearly see when someone doesn't like me, and develop the ability to let them in those situations go, and stop trying so hard to make a square fit into a fucking circle. Like I just don't feel that anymore, and it feels so good. It feels so freeing. And then lastly, just I appreciate the perspectives that you all bring to the show. I appreciate the perspectives that everyone we've interviewed has brought to the show, and I appreciate all of the listeners who write in and things like that. And I feel like every time we talk about something, I find a piece of myself in someone else's experience, and that has really helped me build up like a sense of identifying with myself, and then also connecting with the fact that you fucking just grow and you're fluid. Like there is a self, but there is no self. And the fact that whenever I talk to somebody, I learn something new about myself, like that's very fucking amazing. And I think everyone who has helped me like get to that place. Some goofy things that I've learned along the way: listeners will try to fuck your exes. Like they will go and research your exes to try to fuck them, which is something that I learned. Like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know you guys cared that much.
People.
It's just
people are weird. People are weird.
People who already fuck your exes also listen to the show. I have no beef with that. Hello, friends.
Yeah, I know that.
Welcome to the fold. And listeners will hit up people who you fucked with and say, "Is Sam talking about you?"
Wow.
Y'all are ops, and hello, welcome to the fold.
Y'all are ops. Damn, op 4 out here.
That's a very op thing to do. Like, I'm making the show for fucking free week in and week out, and you're trying to like
trying to fucking shit on your name.
What's the point?
Like really? What do you gain?
Go off. I've learned many things when it comes to podcasting, and many more things when it comes to everything about the show in regards to sex, love, and dating. But this is a podcast that typically lasts an hour and a half at most. So if you want to talk about podcast things, I'm open to doing a Patreon chat if anybody's interested, or an Instagram live chat. But aside from that, I'm going to kick it to my homeboy Rob.
All right. So for the podcasting things, what I've learned in the past 200 episodes, is that we're a podcast about sex, but it's so much bigger than sex. And when, like, I would tell guys, like, yeah, I have this podcast. Oh, what's the name of the podcast? And I have to, like, brace myself for them to think that it's just this podcast about us fucking.
Yeah.
You know, like, it feels like they negate the fact that we talk about so many important issues, and they don't realize how sex plays into almost every single facet of your life. Because it's not just the act of coitus, it's the health that surrounds it, it's your mental health that surrounds it, and that's a men thing. When I say that to like women, AFAB people, like I never get that kind of response. But Sam always told me, like, I never tell dudes that, like, I have a podcast. Like, I just be like, oh yeah,
I hold it off until the last possible moment.
And you know, I try to, and when I try to not even mention it, because then I'm like, I don't want something to happen and then they fucking listen to it, because I always talk shit about people who fuck me over. So I'm like, I don't want them to fucking hear it and then fucking, I don't know what happens when people feel some type of way. But definitely, that's one thing that I did learn, though, that men do not understand the capabilities, that we are a multifaceted platform. And I was afraid that after college, like, I was going to graduate and I was just going to be a normal nigga. But I kind of was a normal nigga. Like, I worked at my regular job, the job that I was working while I was in college. I didn't leave. I couldn't get another job. I was just the same person after working my ass off for these degrees. And I felt like I was never going to be able to use them. Like, I felt like, what was the point? Like, cool, yay, I graduated cum laude, yay, I got a degree in biology, yay. But like, for what? So this podcast allowed me to use the tools that I've learned and use the tools that I've learned about research. So that you see, when I go into research, which I be going into fucking research, I be clicking that pop article and then I go to the actual fucking article. I didn't do it the last time because niggas was tired, but I really go super duper hard because that's what I love to do. And I appreciated that Sam brought me on, because I probably just, like, what would I have done with this degree? I just became a fucking firefighter. You don't need a fucking degree to be a firefighter. You just need a GED. So, you know, it's really nice to have this platform. And anything, like, I care about, I can bring here. So I cared about, like, love and romance addiction, and I wanted to talk about it. So I talked about it. I wanted to talk about PMDD. So we talked about it. I wanted to talk about HPV and the shitty experiences that I had. And we talked about it. Like, I'm able to talk about the things that affect me most. And it's always so nice because our listeners, like, they be like dead ass thanking me. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, I I mean, I know that I'm not no fucking like oddball, like going through this shit by myself. It's like, it's kind of hurtful to know that so many people go through these things, but it is also helpful to know that people are becoming aware that they're going through these things, because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know that niggas are fucking you over in the healthcare system until people teach you what healthcare is supposed to be like. You don't know that you have options until niggas tell you that, no, like, you have options. You don't have to do that surgery. They're just trying to fucking push that shit down your throat. You don't even know why. It could be because it's easy. It could be because it's expensive. We don't know. So, you know, that. And with mental health, trigger warning, big trigger warning, suicide. So from the very beginning, the third like nominee episode that we did, what was that? Transmasculine that we did with Micah. I think that was my last hoorah before I got chosen. The day before that, like, I legit like tried to kill myself. I was like very like, I was so close, like not even like an attempt. It was like I was saved. So, and then like the next day, I recorded a podcast episode. And I'm not saying that like on some like, yeah, look how strong I was. That was not the smart thing to do. Sam gave me an out and I was like, nah, I could do this. That was like my hypermasculinity talking. I needed a fucking break. There's no way you could come back from trying to kill yourself, having your friends find you, and then just record a podcast episode, having not showered for days. Like, it was bad, but throughout the seasons, I've been able to communicate to all of you like, hey, I'm going through this thing, because I feel like my life is extremely complex. I feel like I have one of the most complex lives of everybody that I know, because I have so many different things that I do and so many different things that happen to me and then continue to happen to me. But I can tell you guys, I can tell any one of you. I usually don't even tell all of you. I'll like hit up one of you randomly, like, hey, this happens and I just need a break. Can you like tell the niggas? Or this happened and I don't want to go on IG Live. I just want to record. Can you just let somebody know? Like, I don't ever feel pressured to record or to show my face when I'm feeling like crap. And I think that is a reflection completely of my host. I think if you would have chose other people, yeah, it might have happened. It might have been this great, but this is like a perfect mesh because you guys really fucking get me. And you also get that I can be that super duper strong person, but when niggas need time, niggas need time. So yeah. And you niggas really do pick up where I leave off because my brain be fucking scattered. If y'all would hear how many times I fuck up that intro, because my brain just be everywhere. But like, you guys really do pick up where I leave off, and I really do appreciate that. And just for next season, like, you guys got to see all of my relationships, like basically almost all of them, from the beginning to the end. But now I feel like my feet are a lot more firmly planted. So next season, instead of talking about like, you know, our segment about like sex and depression, or not even next season, next episode, I don't even know how this shit works right now, but my next segment will be more about sharing the process of outgrowing trauma and men. Because I feel like the last episode, me and Sam inadvertently unlocked the key to antidepressants and sex, and also realizing that not being horny is like normal. Like, really, that shit was crazy. That was a life-changing moment. I told my therapist all about it. But so, and favorite episode was, Sam, remember when we interviewed that couple? And this is a Black interabled love story, episode 30 of season 4. Yeah, season 4. And Brad was on YouTube. They did that video, Brad and Noel, about like, it was like the Maury parody. Yeah. And he said something about having a big dick. So I told you this before the fucking recording, and I'm like, Nah, we shouldn't mention it. That should be mad weird. And I don't know how the fuck it slipped out, but then we just started talking about his big dick, and it was.
We did talk about Brad's big dick.
He talked about it. He said it, and they talked about it.
And Brad's dad heard y'all talking about his big dick.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The layers. The layers. Good times.
Good times.
I think that might have been the most weird part, because Dad listened to the episode, because it was a really good episode, and it was just that one segment that just went off the fucking charts. Like it, we needed to not. And he's probably just like, well, like father, like
since we're here. Yeah, it was a good episode.
But
good
love you guys for real, and that's all I got.
Love you too, man.
And I passed it off to my name twin, Rod.
I think when I was sitting down and I was like thinking about the past 200 episodes, I was just like, it kind of amazed me that the first episode, the first time I was ever on the show, I came out and I was like, oh, that was me realizing it, and also just like me talking about it as if I had always known, but it was like the first time I ever said out loud that I was pansexual, or that like I had any interest that was other than just like being straight up heterosexual. And since then, it's kind of incredible how much like literally everything has changed. Even when I look at like the picture, I'm just like, you look at you don't even know what's gonna happen to you being on this shit. You don't even know. But yeah, it was like from being on the show, like literally has been an exploration of my sexuality and my life, like realizing how much I hadn't acknowledged. Like I was very much having sex for the pleasure of the other person, just because I just felt like it was normal. Like I felt like, all right, you're taught, maybe it was just me, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but it's always just like, it's very much from the lens of a man, and if once he's done, you're good, and that's it. And it's such an eye-opening experience to be like, no, this is what I want. I had never ever done that, and I had been having sex, I think I started probably like 7 years at that time, so never had I had a conversation where I was just like, that didn't feel very good, or this, that, and like, it was just never a thing. And to know that I had the power to just like make these decisions, I don't even think I would have been able to even think that, let alone do it and actively live that way if it wasn't for this show. I feel like in a lot of ways I was living in a bubble, partly because of trauma, partly because of just like, no, a lot of it was trauma, childhood trauma, sexual, just a lot. So I just very much recede into myself, and I feel like I've done so much learning, and not, like Rod was saying, not just for sex. Like when we had the year we were just having a theme every month, and like learning about all these Black figures that I didn't even read about, and I'm sitting here like every episode, I remember I kept going like, this is great. Like it's like I wasn't even on the show. It's like I was a listener. I was like, look at every episode, the end, you'd be like, what's the closing thought? And I'm like, I just learned so fucking much on this episode. And it's just like amazing, because I feel like more of a whole and complete person, and very aware of the world that I live in, and like this pride of being a queer person, this pride of being a Black person, this pride of having friends that like, I be sitting here like, yo, I just got people that like, if I need to know something, I got niggas who are just smart around me, and like who are enthusiastic about making this world a better place, and informing people, and the listeners, like it's kind of a privilege, but it's also like just great to be here, and I'm talking to you guys, I'm having these conversations that more often than not I forget that like this is being posted somewhere, and then when someone comes back and they're like, yo, you were talking about this, and I was like, oh shit, I was just kicking it with my bros, but that's crazy. And it's such a good feeling, that knowing that the things that I've struggled with alone, silently, not having these conversations, and people going like, thank you for talking about this, and the conversations that have come up afterwards, that you're just like, oh my God, there are other people in this world, this is really important to people, these are people who tune in, and just like people are just like, I pretend like y'all are sitting in the living room with me, like that. Just the world has grown so much since day one. And also I've explored ethical non-monogamy. Niggas didn't think they was ever gonna do some shit like that because I was never with somebody who was supportive of that, and I didn't even think that that was something that I could do, just because I just limited myself, and I had grown up with it being in my life, so it wasn't something that was necessarily foreign to me, but it was always in this shroud of secrecy, as if it was something that you shouldn't do. Like, it was just like, we do this, but like no one needs to know about this, etc., etc. So it was so much like a, okay, like this seems interesting to me, but if it's so taboo, maybe it's not something that I should like. And like the first time we all talked about it, I think that was one of the first episodes. I was talking to Swingers Anonymous, and we were talking about it.
That was actually your first 2 episodes. Yeah,
that was my first 2 episodes.
And swingers.
Yeah, pansexual, swingers, and it's like all of those things that from day one I never would have thought that I would be the person that I am now. Niggas having threesomes, niggas is non-monogamous, niggas is like, it's just different. You know what I mean? And then
you finally
like,
beat me. Not that it was a contest, but
it wasn't a contest, but you know, I did win.
You did, my nigga, you did. You was doing the bitch.
Yeah, I wasn't like, it was coming from a place of like the person that I was, not even advocating for myself, and then now thinking about like how much I've done and knowing that it's because I'm here, that it's just like, it's incredible. Also a big thing was like doing it all in a fat body that at one point in time I just wasn't even thinking that I could do any of this stuff, that people wouldn't be attracted to me, and that I was not like fully secure in myself at all. Now I'm just here cutting my hair, bitch. I used to have hair long so that I can cover the fact that I have a round ass face. Bitch, it don't matter what your hair look like, your face is gonna be round. It doesn't matter. So I was just like, let me just cut my hair, like doing things that I never, like just making impulsive decisions, feeling freer is definitely because I've been here. And just like being representative for the fat bitches out here. We was talking, everybody's just like, yo, you know, it's good seeing you, and how are you so confident? And I'm like, I need y'all to know that I'm an awkward human being, and I'll be stumbling around everywhere, but this is the body that I have, and there's nothing wrong with it, and I'm celebrating it every day, and it's good to do that on a platform that other people were like, you know, you're doing it for us, and I have no problem doing that, and I take pleasure in it, and I'm glad that I'm part of it. You know, it's been a great ass ride, y'all. My favorite episode is always going to be either Animals Do Be Gay Though, or because that was really just like there was a couple episodes that we didn't even plan on it being that fucking funny, and it just was funny from the start to finish. We were just having a blast recording it. And even just like thinking about the ups and downs, like we have stuck through niggas just being trash, places being trash. It's been a ride, and here we are in our homes, still trying this, doing what we gotta do. And I'm just looking forward to whatever the future is, because if it's from that first day to here and how much has changed, I can only imagine what it'll be in another 200 episodes.
Facts. We're literally fucking recording a podcast from the crib, and when that shit gets uploaded, like you could barely tell.
That's not true.
Like, remember you said,
well,
like,
audio
don't
editor,
guess
that
it.
is absolutely not true yet, but we are working together.
Well, I mean, it doesn't sound like what it used to sound like, which was when we were on the phone with a guest, and then you could hear their phone breaking up and shit. Like, this is a different level of podcasting that it took a while to get to. We out here.
I don't know why Kua
I'm
is
passing it
smiling
to
that she's
Kua's like,
No, I just wanted to make sure that Rodeka was done.
No, I'm good. I'm passing it to you.
I'm also like really swelling with emotion, and I'm just trying to like stabilize
I've cried today. Rob cried. Akua.
I'm gonna cry because I can feel it. Everything that you guys have said is completely and 100%. Like I feel it. I resonate with it. All of those things have also been my experience, and I feel like I can wrap it up with when I was thinking about it, it wraps up in this one sentence that I learned, that it doesn't have to be that way. Like every time that I thought about something, every time we stumbled on some type of new phenomenon or something that was taboo, the underlying, lesson, moral was, it doesn't have to be this way. Like, 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 it doesn't have to be this way. Like does not have to hurt to have sex. You can, sex with a man or sex with a partner can be pleasurable for you as well. Like, it does not have to be this way. And that, I feel like that has just been so powerful. Like, I've learned so much, and I can try to summarize it, but that has been the overarching theme. A bit earlier in the live, I was saying that this podcast has really been a platform, where I got to see, Black people have a discourse, that was natural and, mirrored my experience. It wasn't just Black women on TV and the scripted sets talking about, are we sucking dick? We were talking about, we were already past that. We're talking about threesomes. We're talking about swingers. We're talking about, ab swabs and the lubes for anal. Like, we were getting into it. It was, by my people. It was in a language that I understood. And I didn't, on that first episode in October of 2015, I didn't think it would be this. I didn't think it would be so powerful. But I'm glad that it is. I'm glad that, we even went past the talks of sucking dick and anal sex. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about advocacy. We're dismantling fat phobia, white supremacy, patriarchy, misogyny. We are
yes.
We have taken it so much more than just sex, and the sexual acts that we're doing. I've learned that ethical non-monogamy is for Black people. I only knew of non-monogamy in the way that most Black people do. Our grandpa had a side family there. Our daddy got 2 siblings that nobody really talk about. There's a whole family over there, and never knew that, there were Black people. You always heard of, that's that white people shit. It's like, you never heard of Black folks that were like, no, this is the way that I love. There is a style of love that, can be honoring and respectful to everyone involved, and we can all feel loved and come together. And it doesn't also have to look like some type of cultish ass shit where we all live on one compound and we all serve this one man. It is whatever. It doesn't have to be that way. It's whatever we want it to look like. And in that, my own journey as a person and my interest in ethical non-monogamy has grown. Like, I remember when, Sam started dabbling in it, and I was like, you go, girl, but I'm a monogamous ass bitch. Like, that's good for you. But, I don't see myself doing that. And even from that point to now, I took one of those BDMS tests. It said I'm 75% non-monogamous. I was like, ooh, much cooler. But when it asks the questions, like, if your partner's into this kink, or if your partner wants that and you don't want to do it, can they have another, can they get it elsewhere? And I was like, yeah, nigga, because I'm not about to do it. Like, yes. Seeing that kind of growth, I was like, oh, wow. I learned that I'm ableist as fuck, and it seeped into my sex life, and that it's okay to have a prop during sex. It's okay to stretch before sex. It's okay to pop an inflammatory, Tylenol or something. It does not have to hurt. I remember Sam said something one day, I don't know if it was on podcast or off, but Sam said, that worn out pussy feeling, it does not have to be. And I said, you know what, bitch? Yeah. You know what? It does is
a proverb.
I don't remember saying half of the things that you guys quote me for, but I'm glad that it resonated. Niggas chatting, bro. Niggas, I be chatting. It is, and it does not feel good.
Yeah, I must have missed that episode, because I probably would have been saying that I had worn out pussy.
Yeah,
my pussy be worn the fuck out, man.
I don't know if it was on an episode or if it was just me and Sam in our own lives, but she said that, and I was like, again, light bulbs go off where it was just like, it doesn't have to be that way. And I remember that episode with J.T. Perry where it just, my eyes opened. I was like, you know what? And even that, seeing that highlighted the ableism in my sex life. And that, made me think and reach deeper and really be like, yo, I'm ableist as a parent of a disabled child. I'm still ableist as fuck. Outside of my sex life, outside of my own self, that has forced me to grow and really highlight it and change. I've learned the importance of lube, on this show.
Let's talk
The
about
more
that.
the merrier,
Let's talk
man.
about that.
I am a strong advocate of lube today. Like, to the point where if I'm watching porn and a nigga spits on his genitals or someone else's, I'm turning that shit off.
No, you are wrong.
And I'm starting, yes, that can be sexy. That can be a part of the sexual act, but that is not the lubrication we need.
You do the spit and then the lube.
Yes, and it really infuriates me to see it. Like, it really infuriates me to see it. But I also remember beginning my sexual journey at 13 and thinking that was the only lube I was going to get. If I wasn't wet enough, that nigga going to lick his hand.
I used to be ashamed of stuff like that. I
Bite
used to
my
think that
follow-
because I wasn't lubed up or I wasn't super wet, there was something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like pussies be pussying, my nigga. Pussies be pussying.
And now, like, I really want to push for, you know, them in porn pulling out big tubs of lube. Like, I want to see you reach over for that tub of lube. Like,
advocate like how we advocated for Issa Rae to include condoms in Insecure.
Yes,
you could advocate to the pornography industry to include tub, not a lube.
No,
a tub.
I want a tub. It's so much. For myself, my sexual journey has grown. I've learned to advocate for myself in the same way Sam has talked about. I've learned to advocate for my pleasure in the same way Rebecca has talked about. I've learned that I can have, in the past 2 years, I can still have a fulfilling sex life outside of partnered sex. I've learned that I've never really enjoyed partnered sex because of my orientation as a demisexuality, and I didn't know. I just felt like I had to be out here having casual sex, and it was always trash with niggas, and that was just the way it was going to be for the rest of my life. And I have learned that it doesn't have to be this way. It's just so much. It's like unending, and I am so grateful to, you know, be a part of this. I'm so grateful to have watched this grown from the beginning until now. And I know that there's still so much more for us to unpack and to learn. Like, you know, doing those themed episodes and diving into mental health and sex. Other parts of sex and reproduction, maternity, like, or parentalhood, you know, learning to change my language so that it's inclusive of all folks in the moment. Like, it's been a ride. I can't believe it's been 200 episodes. I can't wait to see what the next 200 episodes are. It's been a thing, and I'm glad to have been in it with you guys.
Almost got me that time.
Snaps.
Almost got me.
I do want to say one of my favorite quotes, and this was from the earlier seasons, season 1, which blew my mind. Sam or Shamika said, Martin Luther King was a cheating ass nigga, and that has stuck with me to this day.
Speaking straight up facts.
I think facts.
We went back to that shit several times. I think every Black History Month we remind everybody
we just
that
had to let everybody know.
Trash.
And it was that, you know, unlearning through this lens of sex, love, and dating, the shit that I wasn't even taught in school, this white supremacist education, like, it's you deserve awards, Sam. Like, you done did a thing, bitch. You done did a thing, you know.
Yes.
You done did a thing.
Thank you for saying that.
We got to give you your flowers now.
Yes. And I will always stand. I will always give you your flowers. That's why I keep
showing up with cakes at your broken birthday party.
This has been, I love to hear when listeners say that it's so impactful for them, but it has been so impactful for me. Like, I was not a professional walking into this. I was just a lay person, and I've learned and I've grown through this whole journey.
Yeah. You all have, we all have. Thank you so much for your contribution, for like riffing on that. with me and the listeners. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where everything goes because it's been a good fucking ride so far.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride.
3 cheers for the 4 queers. Am I right?
Ooh.
Wow. That's the funniest part is that we're all gay.
We're all gay.
Yo,
we're all gay and we keep dating men.
That's the gag of life.
Oh man,
the ultimate gag.
Knowing that we're just like not having a good time, just like let's just do it anyway. Fuck it, just keep.
Somebody told me that there was like cancel on men. They were like, but I love them. I'm like, well, I bitch me too.
Oh, I don't anymore. I
don't let these niggas.
No. Yeah. I'm indifferent, but I mean, if men weren't men, you know what I mean?
You're like an Octavia Butler book. We're going into some fucking sci-fi shit.
If men didn't
some futurism.
That's it. If they just
I'm really on my last dude. Like this is it. Like if I'm dead ass. This is my last
just
dude,
enter a quad relationship. We just date each other because obviously we fucking.
This is like the 8th time that Rob has suggested that we've dated each other or had some type of like relationship.
I don't remember hearing Rob say
y'all
that
don't be
before.
entertaining.
No, I've heard that before.
Yes,
but I've always co-signed it because my demi ass would love to date my friends. It's the perfect setup. Like
we don't gotta have like sex. I mean, we could, but we don't have to.
And Sam goes, I do not want to have sex.
I know.
So that's what I'm saying. You know you've heard this before
because I was gearing up to say that exact same
Sam's
thing.
Like, I
was about to be like, I'll platonically date you, but I'm not fucking any of you.
I said you don't have to.
I don't think I ever did.
All right,
Every time.
You're not the only fucking one in this quad, right?
Oh, true. That's true. I'll just be in the other room. Y'all done in there?
Or be in the room.
You guys.
Cheer me on.
That I would do. I'm just not fucking people I've known for 16 years. We've all known each other for a long time, or I've known all of you for a long time.
Well,
that's
me and
really
Rob
cool.
acting like we never met. I was thinking about that earlier. And I was gonna touch on the fact that like
this
the
is
first
definitely
episode,
a running gag.
Yeah, first episode we're just sitting there like, yeah, man, it's nice to meet you. We're gonna be on a podcast together. It's gonna be great. Spent an entire night.
Was so awkward.
It's fine, but I'm a weird person, so I just thought it was me. But I was just like, we had a whole night together.
Because I definitely remember saying, I'm gonna hit on that girl, and then somebody saying that's one of Sam's friends, and then me going, absolutely not, because we've had a bad run with Sam's friends. So I was like, no, I'm good. And then we took a picture together, and then we found that picture many years later,
and we were like, oh shit, we were
very
fucking
weird.
Yeah.
Bro. That shit was some Twilight Zone shit. And I definitely remember specifically Akua hanging out in the basement with Sam and others. And we was having the time of our very, very, very young lives.
Yes.
Origin stories. These are our Marvel origin stories.
I love it. And here we are, like real life adults with bills and jobs, and you out here freelancing. We're entrepreneurs essentially. Like we're really doing it. And we're disabling white patriarchy at the same time.
One episode at a time. Like real life superheroes. That really is our Marvel origin story. Except for like the vat of radioactive waste. All right.
Get Martisha to film it.
You definitely would. Anybody who's listening, we hope you enjoyed that little walk down memory lane with us. If you have moments that you want to shout out in episodes past, you can definitely write to us at ihtupodcast@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail. Okay, so that has been it for the fuck me portion of this episode. Typically we would go to our fuck you segment, which is where we read listener letters, but for the purposes of YouTube, we're going to actually end it here. The next portion of this episode, we had a pretty heavy discussion about a listener letter that, to be honest, was quite difficult to discuss, and we wanted to do that a little bit more privately than normal, so not with a camera glaring in our faces while we're talking about things. that are heavy to discuss. So that will actually be available on our listening platforms, but not on YouTube for this time. Just for this one time. Next time we'll have our fuck you on YouTube. So thank you so much for listening and watching another episode of Inner Hoe Uprising. If this episode made you laugh, helped you learn something, made you feel good, made you question yourself in a good way, or positively moves you in any sense, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher and let everyone you know that you love these hoes. We appreciate you all. Thanks for rocking with us for almost 200 fucking episodes now.
Yes. And if you would like to follow us on social media, you can do so at Inner Hoe Uprising without the G on Twitter, Inner Hoe Uprising with the G on Twitter. Oh, not on Twitter, on Facebook and Instagram. And you could also join our Facebook community. That's facebook.com/community, CUMMUNITY. And head to innerhoeuprising.com to sign up for weekly goodies via our newsletter, Pay a Hoe, or check out merchandise.
Where can we follow you?
You can follow me at Pubiscus. That's PUBISCUS on Instagram. I am Rob. Damn, I fucking always forget. Like, what the fuck is my Twitter name?
Rob the Body.
Rob the Body or Rob the Body? Rob the Body.
Yeah.
I'll be robbing these niggas. Hold on. Yeah, it's Rob B, ROBBY, the THEE body, regular body. And my OnlyFans is onlyfans.com/BBYBOIROB.
And you can follow me, Rodeka, sometimes Rebecca. I mean, I was born that way. At The Darkest Timeline. It's not even real. At The Darkest Timeline on Instagram, or Exist and Crisis on Twitter.
You guys can follow me, Akua, at Hey Akua Girl on Instagram.
You can follow me at SlamRid on Instagram and Twitter, and Carmen Sam Diego on Instagram for travel and food photos. See you in the future.
Bye. Thanks for coming.